Okay. Hold on.
And we are live. Hey guys, I'm Heather with Head in the Clouds, and this is
Andres here with real estate agent in the Huntsville market and host of Charlas Sencillas and a Cloud Realty partner as well. And we got
Real Talk today. And Andres, you want to introduce Sean?
Yes, again, we have today Sean Redinger here, responsible for agent success with Cloud Realty, and one of my good friends who we are going to have quite often here because always has some great nuggets to pour into your business, into your mindset. So it's always a pleasure to have you here, Sean. Thank you for coming on board with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me. What are we talking about today?
Man, you'll be surprised, but something you always mention since I got together with you, and that is the 7 points of clarity. But we wanted to shift it a little bit and focus on something the agent for the Cloud Realty have asked is the 7 points of clarity from a buyer's and seller's perspective. How can we touch on those points, and what are those points exactly? So we want to bring that up so that we can show our audience, what are those 7 points that we need to touch on? What do they mean? Provide some clarity, some questions, and your input into that aspect.
And we're going to break them down step by step too, Sean, so we can divide it out in sections. But yeah, like you said, you want to kind of give us a what is it and what's it for?
Yeah, no. So, I want to zoom out because the 7 points of clarity, which I got a lot of my inspiration from Cole Gordon. I have to give credit to him a lot for really installing this into my sales process. But zooming out, the 7 points of clarity: pain, doubt, cost, desire, money, support, trust, are all these are sales basics. Like, these are sales principles. And when I say sales principles, I mean these are, like, if you don't understand these basic things, it doesn't matter how awesome your offer is, doesn't matter how good your pitch is. You're if you don't understand this about your buyer, and even from a marketing perspective, to deliver on your avatar, to find your avatar, and so zooming out, I just wanted to emphasize, that this is the thing that you master before you prescribe your solution. And so if that solution is next steps in meeting at a house, next steps in signing buyer's agency agreement, if that means next steps in joining your brokerage, or next steps in joining your team, or next steps in whatever it is in your process, but actually understanding these basics before you pitch, before you offer, before you make the ask, is really where the 7 points of clarity comes from. And the points of clarity is just clarity about your prospect.
Yeah, absolutely. And something you mentioned there, prescription, right? Something I heard multiple times from you, Coach Russ, is prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. Did I get that right?
Yeah, prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. That's right.
So these 7 points of clarity help us identify, what the root cause is in order for us to provide the right prescription. So going into the main one, the first one, which is, I'd say, pain. When you're talking to a buyer and seller, some of the questions that we talk about is what's been the most difficult part of buying or selling on a buying journey so far? How can we translate that to?
A question that, excuse me, a question that I heard someone say on a call one time that I really, really like: what does your current house not solve for you that you're looking for in your next one?
That's a good one.
Like, wow. Like, what is your current house not solving for you that you're looking for in your next one? And I bet you, I heard that and I just thought, wow, that is a powerful statement. So I see you got the slide up. I love the slides, guys. This is awesome. This is so clean. This is so. You guys are awesome. Yeah, could I emphasize this point right here? Pain.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Okay, so pain is the first that we understand. Now, I want to emphasize that when we cover the 7 points of clarity, the different 7 topics, you're not asking these questions in order. These are simply check boxes.
Yeah.
So before I get started with any conversation, with any sales discovery conversation, the first thing that I'm doing, and I kid you not, I'm writing down pain, doubt, cost, desire, money, support, trust. And I'm putting a checkbox next to them. And then right next to the checkbox is I'm putting their words of what they said. Now, this is also assuming that you're in a perfect condition to receive a phone call, which almost no one is. But just as a general best practice, if you get the time to take notes, which I always encourage you to do, is to first start off with at least having them listed. And because this is a dance, this isn't like a perfect syntax, right? So pain. So what is your current house not solving that you're looking for in your next house? That answer solves for your pain. It solves for your desire. What's another question? So if you're asking about their life situation, so there's the Ford method. So if you are doing family, occupation, recreation, and dreams or desires, and out of asking, those general questions, you hear, I have 2 children in the same bedroom and I got a third on the way.
Yeah.
That's a pain. I'm checking that box off and I'm jotting that note down. Right. So I want to emphasize these are just sales principles. They're not scripts. Right? They're just understanding of the person that you want to communicate with, that you want to do business with.
I always try to throw time in there too. Like the last question you said, that kind of goes with time too. When I'm talking about pain, I always ask them, are we on a time frame here? Do we have a strict time frame budget that we have to keep in mind? Or are we just kind of, taking our time and looking at houses? And if we find the right house, we find the right house. Because a lot of times you'll find out that no, they want to be in the house before school starts. Or like you said, there's a baby on the way. They need to have that nursery ready before the baby comes. So time can be a pain point to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it, like you said, once you understand the concepts, those 7 principles, if you're applying the Ford method, you can identify those 7 principles in just a normal conversation. And also the importance, if you're not in a position to take notes, if you're using your platform, your CRM that records the call, you can go back and listen to that conversation and say, okay, I missed a couple of points here. Let me go back and have another conversation to bring out some of these principles back on.
Exactly. I want to emphasize this for anyone who's watching this. I just jotted this down to show you an example of what I'm talking about. Of just jotting down the seven points of clarity: pain, doubt, cost, desire, money, support, trust. Pain, doubt, cost, desire, money, support, trust. So pain, this is a big one. This is a big one. If there's not enough implied pain, and I see what's the most difficult part of your buying, selling journey so far? Oh gosh, a question I wish people would ask more often. What was your last experience like?
Yeah.
I wish people would ask that more often. What was your last listing like? When you listed your house in Nebraska to move here to Huntsville, Alabama, what was that like? And that person's going to say, "Oh, my agent never called me. They charged 3%. Da, 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 da." Whoa, now I got a lot of information, a lot of ammunition, so I know exactly what to say next.
Exactly.
right?
I was gonna say we hear that a lot, right? We hear that from leads, we hear that from agents, um, but the question is not being asked. Or, like you said, that's a question that should be asked more often because it will definitely give you a baseline on, yeah, what to say, when not to do.
Exactly. So doubt. This is my favorite one. This is my favorite one because this really tells me whether or not someone's qualified. Okay. Um, and when I say qualified, I don't mean qualified in the financial sense. I mean qualified in the sense that they're going to work with you. And so doubt. You have here what's holding them back, what's making you hesitate about moving. If you explored buying or selling before, what stopped you last time? Are there any questions or unknowns that are making you second guessing the timing? So those are all great questions, but the understanding that we're trying to accomplish is, are they in between the belief that they know it's possible, but they know they can't do it themselves? Okay, they know it's possible, they can't do it themselves. They know that they can't do it themselves. Okay, let's talk about the inverse of that. If they believe it's impossible, they're not moving forward with you. If they believe that they can do it themselves, they're not moving
And
forward with you.
Yeah.
that's correct.
So, and equally, if they have a friend or cousin, an uncle, a realtor that they know, and they think they can do it without you. So that question that you ask, they don't, can they do this themselves? If they have someone else that they're working with, they already believe that, yes, they can do this themselves because they already have a solution. So again, they're not moving forward with you. So figuring out if they're within the buyer's pocket, and how you do that, you listen.
Sean, can you explain
Yeah.
the buyer's pocket to our listeners and what that is?
So more emphasis on the buyer's pocket is again, the they have to be in between the belief that they know it's possible and they know that they can't do it themselves. And if they have both of those going for them, then that's what, okay, we know this person's in the buyer's pocket. This means that they're talking to me right now. Okay. If I own a hair salon and someone walks in, am I going to assume that they came in for taxes, or am I going to assume that they're here for a haircut?
You're gonna assume they're here for a haircut.
Right. They're in the buyer's pocket. They didn't come in with scissors, and I didn't bump into them at the grocery store. I bumped into them at the hair salon. Yeah, they're here to get a haircut. They're in the buyer's pocket. So, translate that into real estate.
Assume someone came in through your ads. Right?
They came in through your ads. Yeah, they raised their hand. Okay, so we know that this person is interested. Okay, but I want to make a distinction here. Interest and doubt are different. Interest, I would almost put in the desire category, but doubt again is because if they think, oh, the economy is bad, or I'm waiting for the election.
Waiting for the interest to go down.
I'm waiting for the interest to go down. They believe it's impossible. So, Mr. Buyer, if I were to show you a way that you could still get your 4.99% interest rate and into the home that you want, would you be open to that? Yes, I would be open to that. Okay, boom, we've eliminated the impossibility now. It's now possible. Okay, now we have the ability to move forward. Okay, great. Asking them questions about their last experience. This is really key. You figure out a whole lot of doubt when you're asking historical questions. What have you done so far in your home search? What have you looked up? What was your last listing like? When you purchased the home you're living in today, what was that experience like? And they're going to say, oh, my agent, I loved my agent, but she passed away. She's no longer here. I loved working with her. She handled everything. Great. I know that this person knows that she can't do it herself. Okay, great. And when did when were you thinking about selling? I was thinking about, I was only thinking about selling if I could find a home, for less than a 5% interest rate. Oh my gosh, I have 3 builders that can offer that. What if would you? Yes, I would. Okay, let's move forward. So figuring out if someone's in the buyer's pocket is critical. And if you don't figure this out, then what happens? What happens, Andres?
Absolutely. If you don't figure it out, you're not moving forward with that person.
Or it blows up, or the deal blows up.
That it does. And going into the next one, the next point, which is cost. We talk a lot about showing the cost of waiting. How do you help a client connect the dots without selling yourself too much? As an agent, how do I help them connect those dots without saying, okay, you got to work with me. You got to work with me. I'm the best choice.
Yeah. Or sounding too pushy, like you're just trying to get them to sign, like it's going to cost you this. You want to come off, genuine, like you care. You don't want to come off sleazy and pushy.
Okay, so those are different questions on the topic of cost of an action.
Yep.
So we're talking about how to not come across as sleazy. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. I mean, that's one of the easiest ways. But help me understand your question more.
What would happen if nothing changes? They're looking to move. They're looking to sell there. Let's say a for sale by owner. What happens if nothing changes? If he's not able to sell the property in the next 6 months?
So how do you ask these questions without coming across sleazy? Well,
maybe kind of go back to what you had said earlier about they had said, they have a new baby coming and, they need a new room. Well, what happens if you don't get into the new house before the baby comes? What does that look like for you guys?
No. Well, let me ask you this. Does that question sound comfortable? Like what happens if you don't do that? And it's like, well, I don't know, Karen. What happens? It's this is why it's really important to understand that this is through discovery, this is through understanding your prospect, through understanding the person you're connecting with. But the cost of an action, the reason why you're wanting to know this yourself is so that you can understand later and handle a timeline objection. What do I mean by that? If someone just told you, I have 2 kids in 1 bedroom and we live in a 2-bed, 2-bath house, or even worse, a 2-bed, 1 bath house, and we're all sharing the same bathroom. Oh my goodness. And I got another one on the way. And then that person texts you, I'm holding my search, I'm putting my search on hold. You're going to be like, what? Are you serious? Like, you're going to go to that person's house. Are you okay? Are y'all still together? You're going to be asking a lot of questions. Why? Because you're going to bring up the cost of an action. You're going to bring up, so what are your plans, for that third baby? And that's a gross oversimplification. There's so many, but my point to this is, when you understand someone's cost of an action. So instead of asking so what happens if, we don't find your perfect house and you have that third baby? We're not asking that. So, you're asking questions like, have you thought of anything else? Like if if you can't find this? Have you considered other alternatives? If like, do you just plan on renting if you can't find the perfect house? You know, and then you can totally gauge and see where that person is at. And if they say yes, okay, so you plan on renting? Well, no, not unless we find the perfect house. How bad do you want to find the perfect house? Well, I'm willing to make some compromises. Okay, does your husband mind an extra 15-minute commute to get what you guys want?
Yeah.
You know, really figuring out how bad is it, because if that cost of an action is not that bad, if it's like, oh, well, I'll just rent, I'll just renew my lease.
I'm gonna remind them that the in-laws are coming from out of state when the baby is born.
Yeah.
So now they're gonna have 7 people in the house, right?
Yeah.
A 1-bathroom house.
Hey, been there. This is fun. It's just the importance of having these conversations, asking these type of questions to really understand them, and most of all, really truly understand how we're going to be able to help them. Because, like you said, some of these questions, if we're not asking these questions down the road, it could kill the deal. They may hold back. They're like, okay, this doesn't make sense anymore. And it's so important, starting that relationship, asking these questions, so that we can truly help them find what they're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. Which by the way, these are. So now you're on the 4th one, desire. So you guys remember? You guys remember what we call the first 4 beliefs?
Emotional.
That's right.
Emotional beliefs. And desire, it fuels decision, right? How do you help people articulate what they really want? I think that's so important in having these conversations, because oftentimes we see people, oh, I would like this particular house, and Heather and I, you and I talked about that a few episodes ago. People want this particular home, but that's really not what they need. How do we articulate that in some questions to help them understand? Okay, this is exactly what I need, and it's making sense for them.
Sell them what they want, deliver what they need. Sell them what they want, deliver on what they need.
Simple enough, right?
Well, have you ever walked into? Let me ask you guys this: have you ever walked into like a department store, and then someone asks you like, "Hey, can I help you with anything?" And you're like, "No, I'm just browsing," and you don't want to talk to them. And then like 2 minutes later, you're back to that same person. Hey, I have a question.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like
all the time.
So the desire part, there's a couple of things that we have to like assume here. Okay, number one, like you have to assume that the person already has a desire. Okay, you have to already assume that. You can't just like, I say this with humility. Okay, as someone who's not a licensed real estate agent, my wife is a licensed real estate agent. I am not a licensed real estate agent, but as someone who has listened to thousands of these calls, live call transfers with other real estate agents, I see so many missed opportunities here. But the point about desire is that we have to assume that the person already has that desire if they're here. Going back to my hair salon example, if I'm a woman and I come in with long hair and it looks crazy, and I'm walking into the hair salon, okay, am I coming in there for taxes? No, I'm here to get a haircut, right? We have to assume the most basic stuff, okay? Now, what's that hair salon? What's that person? And I promise I'm not getting into the hair business, cosmetology business. But what's that person gonna ask? What's that cosmetologist, or however you call them? What do you call them? Hairstylist? What's the hairstylist gonna beautician, whatever? Yeah. What is that person going to ask next? Do you want a haircut? No, they're not going to ask that question. They're going to say, what do you want with your haircut? How do you want it? Right? They're going to ask more questions. And I say this but with a lot of love. I've heard so many times, do you want to buy a house? So yes. Okay. And then the ISA said 3-bed, 2-bath. because the ISA already asked that question. The appointment setter already asked that question. And then they say, okay, so you want a 3-bed, 2-bath. Okay, cool. Well, I'll set you up on a search. And that's it. It's like, you just got that's it? Number of best, budget? That's it? Like, if the person came in into the hair salon and said, I want to get a haircut, and the person's like, okay, no other questions, how scared, how nervous would you be about like what that haircut would look like, right?
Hell no. I'm very picky with that.
So my point to this is on the topic of desire, it's assume the most basic and have you yourself have an internal desire to know a little bit more than the basics. Okay. All right. And when I'm asking about the basics here or mentioning the basics, do you have a dog?
Yeah.
Is a yard important to you?
Depending on what size, because man.
Yeah, you got a big one, man. That's a scary dog.
Yeah.
If someone says, I'm looking for a 4-bed, 3-bath in this area, okay, and we know that that's tough. Maybe it's a tough budget. How important is it that we get a 4-bed? Is a 3-bed okay? Can we settle for a 3-bed? Okay, you're not asking why do you want a 4-bed? Why is like disempowering? If I said Andres, why were you late this morning? You weren't late, but if I was to say why were you late this morning, you'd feel disempowered. But if I said, hey Andres, what made you late this morning? You would just have an adult conversation with me, right? So I'm not asking why do you want a 4-bedroom house? I'm asking, is a 4-bedroom, truly important, or can we also see some houses with a 3-bed? Right. So I'm asking a couple layers deeper, right? And I want to encourage. And I'm sorry for hogging the time here, but I just want to encourage so many people to just dig at least 3 layers deeper. Person wants a backyard. Investigate.
Why is it important?
Why? What about that backyard do you want to see? Do you want to see trees? What about the backyard is important to you?
Do you want grass or do you want a patio?
Yeah.
Fenced in.
And something you say there, the question on why is so disengaging, I got that from Coach Russ as well.
Yeah.
When you're asking that particular questions, why, it completely disengages someone and no open them. They completely shut down.
Yeah.
Right. And you can try it with your kids. Yeah, it works.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But you just change the question around and they're more open to having a conversation. It just flows naturally.
Oh yeah.
So just for reference, when you're having this conversation, most of the time it's either because you were given a live transfer or you were cold calling, somebody came into your open house. So this is kind of your first interaction with these people. You don't know them, they don't know you. Is this something that can be broken up into 2 separate things, like do the emotional part maybe to begin with and then set that second meeting? Like say you got transferred a call, you're asking these questions, and then can you kind of get to a point where you're like, okay, let's meet at Starbucks tomorrow and then go back into it and do the rest of it? Or does it all have to be done at once, Sean?
That's a great question. If you and I say this because I've literally heard this on live call transfers. Someone makes the connection, the live call transfer happens, and the buyer says, hey, I just spoke with your assistant. I'm looking for a 3-bed, 2-bath house in this area, this price point. I need at least an acre, fenced in yard, because I got 2 Great Danes. I need there to be no neighbors nearby because they love to bark, and my current neighbors call the cops on them. And and I'm tired of talking with real estate agents. I just want to talk with one. So if you're that one, I'm happy to work with you. But I don't want to get tossed around or passed along to your team. I just want to talk to one real estate agent. And that's my situation. My name is Janice. I've heard that. You just got all 7 check boxes right there. You just got all. But to your question, Heather, about, do I break it up? Do I get this and that? Here's the thing. In the appointment setters are already getting the logistical. So you have the emotional, the four emotion beliefs: pain, doubt, cost, and desire. And then you have the logistical beliefs, which is pain, doubt, cost, desire, money, and support. So money and support, the ISA is already gathering. At least they're understanding your financial situation. And this is a great segue. Your financial situation and what their most basic, qualifications are for looking for a house. So if the appointment setter is already doing all that stuff, you can build off of that information to check all of your boxes. And another thing I want you to emphasize here is that these sales principles, pain, doubt, cost, desire, money, support, trust, understanding that their situation is for you to know, and also for your prospect to know. Because if you know all of this stuff, but you've never talked to them, and the appointment setter has, none of this means anything. So sorry, Heather, to go back to your question, do I have to do this all at once? The sooner you get all 7 check boxes, the sooner you have absolute confidence in what really is going to happen next steps. Okay. And I say that because when we talk about putting on the class of like how to avoid ever getting ghosted again, these 7 points of clarity is exactly why it makes up the bulk of the training. Because if you're missing any one of these 7 points, if you have a conversation but you didn't bring up their spouse, you didn't bring up their
Support,
their financial situation. Yeah, I know I'm skipping ahead here, but if they didn't bring up, if you didn't understand if they're in the buyer's pocket or not, let's just use that as an example. And they don't believe that it's possible right now. They're the ones who are going to send you a text, "Hey, I'm waiting for the election, to blow over." They're the ones who are going to send you that random text, "Hey, I'm going to put this on pause for now." And you're not going to know why. That's the problem right there. That's the key. It's okay to not do a deal. It's okay for a deal to not fall through, but it's not okay to not know why.
Yeah. And I think something so important in identifying these points is sometimes even the client itself would not realize what their pain was, right? When you start digging deeper into each of these areas, a lot of times they're going to realize, okay, what I thought was a problem is not a problem. What I thought it was a doubt, it's not a doubt, and just imagine how impactful that is to the relationship. Now you're building a client. Now you're building a long-term client just from having a natural conversation. And in the process, you are covering these things. You're identifying these points to be able to help them. And at the same time, they're understanding more what their situation is. I think it's it gets overlooked a lot of times. I'll tell you, I'm one of those that when we started working together, I was not doing a great job in how I was handling the situation, and it happens sometimes. It still happens to me here and there. Uh, but the more familiar with it, the more practice I put into it, the more natural it is that when you're having a simple conversation, you're asking these type of questions unconsciously.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Oh,
unconsciously you're asking these questions, and this is part of your natural conversation. That's the beauty of it, and how impactful are those relationships moving forward now.
brother, you are so on point with that. I mean, now I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna steal that from you. Um, I'm gonna take that because that's a gold nugget right there. You're absolutely right. And everything that the reason why I put so much emphasis on that this is a dance and not a perfect, flow. You don't ask the pain questions and the down. You don't do all
No,
that, you, but here's the thing. When you get really good at this, if you discipline yourself to jot down pain, doubt, cost, desire, money, support, trust, every new discovery conversation. When I say new discovery, I'm talking about new prospects. So you go to church on Sunday, your pastor recommends his son who wants to get pre-approved and look at houses, and you guys get connected. That's as good as a referral can get. You still need to ask these. You still need to understand this about your prospect. What is their pain? What is their doubt? Cost, desire, money, support, trust. Um, Understanding this, and here's the cool part: you do this enough times, you're gonna walk away from conversations, and you're gonna be like, "Shit, I did not ask them about this. I didn't ask them about this." And when people talk to me and they're like, "Man, Sean, like." I'm so happy I'm here, and like looking back, I never even felt sold. You know, it's because I understood them. It's because I listened, and instead of not listening in the sense of it's just hearing them, but listening to all of these points. And if you can solve these points, you become their next best friend. So, hey, I see. So you moved on to support. I'll touch on money real quick because this is a big one with agents. Andres, how many deals? Well, there's too many to count. But when it comes to the money situation, money, of course, is absolutely important. Now we're talking about the logistical beliefs. The logistical points of clarity. When it comes to money is absolutely important, but it doesn't need to be everything. And so when I say that, I mean, you could ask a simple question: if we found the right house, are we submitting an offer with cash or financing it?
finance,
And what are the outcomes of that? Like what could they possibly say?
cash, or
Yeah,
finance.
or both, or both. Hey, I want to
Yeah,
sell my house so I can, I don't want to carry $600,000 in debt. I want to put $300,000 down. You know, um, I got a situation right now like that in Coleman right now, where the buyers they're selling their house. They actually have 200,000 down already. They already got pre-approved, and they want to get financed. So what's another outcome? So there's cash, finance, both. What's another outcome? I don't know. Maybe a big question mark. I don't know what my purchasing power is.
They need to speak with the lender.
I need to speak with the lender. I don't know. I need to speak with my wife. Now we're talking about support. So instead of, what's your, most agents are going to say, have you spoken with the lender? Now the appointment setter's already covered that question. They've already asked that question. Have you spoken with the lender? Let's pretend that you didn't, you don't remember, or you didn't see that, or you forgot. And you want to understand their financial situation. Okay. Following the Ford method: family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. Okay. If you're asking about their, so what do you do here in Huntsville? If you understand what they do, you can get kind of a general idea, okay, of their situation. And the point I really want to drive home is that on the money topic, we're painting a picture. We're not interrogating. Okay?
Paint the picture.
We're painting a picture. Okay. If someone says yes, if we find the perfect home, I want to submit an offer with cash. Excellent. I can move on in my conversation. But before I show a single house, before I meet this person in person, I need proof of funds. I'm going to need proof of funds. If I'm going to submit an offer, the person's going to want to see proof of funds or a pre-approval letter. Any freshman realtor, any freshman listing agent is not going to suggest no listing agent worth their salt is going to suggest to their homeowners to take an offer without proof of funds or a pre-approval from a lender. And if they do, that's a gamble. That's a gamble. You're just asking for another 30, 60 days, 90 days on market. That's what you're asking for. And so knowing that that's going to be a next step, let that be the next step when it's the next step. But don't let it be the next step right then and there on the call, right? Build a relationship. Now you're painting a picture. You understand their financial situation. Got it. Plan on paying for it with cash. Totally understand. Financing. Someone says financing, they need to speak with a lender. That's pretty straightforward. Let the lender disqualify them. Don't disqualify them on the phone. Let someone
I've heard a number of times that agents had a conversation with the lead and, they're not in a buying position. And I asked that question, have you connected them with a lender to be able to determine that? Not yet. It's unfortunate because they might be closer than what the agent thinks.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see it happen way too often.
Let your lender have that conversation. Let your lender walk you through the options. Don't be that gate. Don't be the financing gatekeeper. Because if you, oh gosh, and I get real fired up about this because people deserve a home. There's a reason why there's freaking laws about this. Andres, you and I and Heather, we listened to a call 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'm not going to say any names. That was a terrible call review. And the person obviously had no interest in that person, didn't ask any of these questions. It was like they might as well have talked to a telemarketer, from a third world country.
Yeah, and that's something Heather and I brought up on Tuesday too. There are lender questions that you want to direct and have the lender discuss with them. We are, as professional agents or professional real estate, you want to have them have a professional discuss those matters with them for their best interest, and just being able to connect them. That's all it takes.
Man, so on the money topic, paint a picture, don't interrogate. Obviously, it's important. Have a plan for next steps. Be safe. This is such a big one. We could turn a whole hour on this one. Okay, let's move on to support. Let's move on to support though, because I think we only have 17 minutes left together.
Yep.
Okay. So, support, man. So support. The question that we are asking ourselves is, who other than this person I'm talking to right now has buying decision? Okay. That doesn't always mean it's the partner, believe it or not. It could be the partner's dad. Okay.
Yeah.
When I first got married to Kara, I didn't realize that Ed, my father-in-law, was gonna be touring us, on during a walkthrough. Like, I didn't know that, but here he is. Knocking on wood, kicking stuff, making sure it's a good house for his daughter, rightfully so. I have a 3-year-old daughter. I'll probably do the same thing. But the thing here is who other than you has decision making power, and obviously that is a really weird question. That's a really weird. Andres, who other than you has buying decision making power? It's a weird question.
It kind of makes it seem like you're asking them because they can't make the decision on their own. So they're not like
Right.
responsible enough. All right, well, who's going to be the one really making the decisions around here?
Right. So
if you ask my wife, she's gonna say I am, or she is.
depending on who you ask, right?
Yeah.
So,
So it's so important though that question, because a lot of people want to start the process and they don't think that far ahead. But hey, if your spouse is also a co-signer in the loan and everything, it's important to get it started from the beginning. And we see that a lot too. Oh, I'm looking for my son. I'm looking for my daughter. So in our case, the ISA is talking to the mom that's looking for her daughter. So what's important in the house? The agent needs to be in front of the daughter who's going to be living in that property.
mm-hmm.
So it's a very important question that gets overlooked.
Mm-hmm. And I like these questions that you put here. Who do you normally lean on when making big life decisions like this? That's a pretty personal question, and I might preempt it with, hey, could I ask you a personal question? If someone's like on the fence about something, or you could sense a little bit of hesitation, to get compliance in a conversation, and to get compliance is a really weird way to say that. To get them to open up in conversation, could I ask you a personal question? Who do you normally lean on when making these types of decisions? But asking questions around who other than you needs to see a list of properties. Okay, so I have your email at johnsmith@gmail.com. Who other than you needs to be CC'd on this list of properties? Oh, my dad. Oh, my husband. He actually is the main one who really wants to see it. Make sure, I just care about the kitchen, or I just want the garage, or I just want a hobby room or whatever. Like, that's the important thing to me. So who other than you is the question that you're asking. Who other than you, and then insert deliver value. Okay, so who other than you wants to go see these houses this weekend? Or who other than you is involved in selling your recently deceased grandmother's estate? That's a pretty important question. I can't tell you how many deals got really close to going on the market, and then all of a sudden there's a family feud.
Yeah.
And I deal with thousands of internet leads, and that actually is a huge population of people who, during a probate situation or during a will situation, people go online for an agent. They don't go to a friend, realtor, most often. I see that all the time. So who other than you has power in making this decision? And again, I want to emphasize, you're painting a picture, you're not interrogating. But these are the logistical beliefs: money and support. Right? If you don't have the support, again, I can't tell you how many deals have fell through the cracks because the agent didn't ask if the husband wanted to be CC'd on the emails. And then the husband actually ends up finding an agent for the house.
I was just gonna say that now they each have an agent that they want to work with.
That has happened dozens of times. That actually happened with Kara. She was about to sign listing documents like that same day, and she gets a text from her husband while he's at work. Don't worry about it. I already signed with another agent, and we got movers coming in 2 weeks. Like,
and that brings us
Well, the email one, oh, wait, before we go on, I want to say the email one is a great one, Sean, because that's the one I typically always use, not only because it enables you to get, that point across, but also because it allows you to gather more information. So now if you didn't have that other email address, now you have that other email address. And then I always follow that up with, okay, perfect. Now let me start a group chat with, text message, and then you can get everybody's numbers asking it that way. And that way you have all the contact information you need. So you avoid that. So you don't get hit later with my husband or my uncle's brother found somebody else. And like you said, if you're having a conversation instead of an interrogation, these questions just kind of flow and it's just kind of like a natural thing. But if you're, where do you work? What time do you get home? How much money is in your bank? That's not how you would want to have this at all.
No. And that brings us to the last point, which is how do you build trust quickly in a conversation, especially with colleagues? What makes someone feel like, okay, I can move forward working with Sean here.
If Apple came out with a hotel, what would your expectations be that it was going to be a good experience staying the night at the new Apple hotel?
I don't like Apple products, but yeah, I see. It would be good given the brand that they have built together, right? That they put together.
All right, Andres,
it would give the assumption.
I wouldn't be able to figure out how to use the sync. I'd be like, it didn't come with an instruction manual.
But Andres, you picked up on it. Exactly, it's the brand. Apple as a company has a good reputation, has a great brand. So at its core function, what is a brand? It's trust. It's delivering what you say you're going to deliver on. So the easiest way that you could build trust, and I took this from one of our guys, Jesse, who says that you have to sell 1 second to get 2 seconds, and you have to sell 2 seconds to get 3, and so on and so forth. But I think the same thing is built with trust. They talk about how it's built with, or you acquire in spoonfuls and then it's lost in buckets. Anyways, my point is doing the things that you say you're going to do. So finding ways that you can immediately show that you're going to deliver values. Don't be the person who says, you can call me all the time, or well, of course you could say that, but I mean, I always answer my phone. I always, anything you need at all, I'll do. Like, okay, everyone's heard all that. We get it, then that's great. But if you say, awesome, immediately after this call, I'm going to do this, and then tomorrow I'm going to follow up with you about this, and then because I introduced you to this person, this lender, I'm going to connect with them on this date, and on Saturday, is that a good time for us to reconnect after all of that has been done? And if you get off the call and instead of sending whatever you were going to send, you wait until you get home, and then after you put the kids to bed, it's been there, and then when you're finally settled in and you're comfortable and you're finally ready, you send it 6 hours, 10 hours later. Do you guys remember back in the day when you had a phone book? Oh, did I lose you?
Hang on a second. I'll get us back. It just does this sometimes. There we go.
You guys remember when you had a phone book and you needed to call a plumber, and you looked at the top of the list. Everyone was ABC Plumbing because they wanted to be at the top of the list because it was alphabetical. And you called ABC Plumbing and they didn't answer. What did you do?
Just went to the next one.
You just went to the next person. And so if you said you're going to deliver on value and it takes you 6 hours to do it, believe it or not, there's a huge population of people that will just go to the next person. Some people are very loyal. They're like, Heather is really sweet. She was really nice. And she's got kids, and you know, she's super fun, and I love her videos and I love her content, and you know, I'll wait 6 hours. Like, that's okay. And some people built up a good enough brand that they're willing to overlook those things, right? But in that first engagement, in that first interaction, trust is built on doing the things that you say you're going to do. Okay. And another example of this is not answering their question. So if they ask you a question and you don't answer it, you overlook it, like that, to me, I mean, how does that feel to you guys? Like in a sales situation, when you ask a question, the person's just like, boop, nope, I'm not going to answer that, but I'm going to give you this runaround.
Yeah,
You know, you're like, oh,
very,
okay.
very, very dismissive. It irritates me because it's like, why won't you answer the question? Why are you avoiding that question?
Dismissive is the word. Dismissive. Yes. Yes. So, so trust is built in doing the things that you said you were going to do. And trust is a hard one because trust is built throughout the entire process. So ask yourself, I like to ask agents to audit themselves and ask, when you said you were going to send a list, did you send it right then and there, or did you send it later on that night? And I know you might be thinking like, does it really make a difference?
Yes, it does.
If you're looking for a solution online and the first person doesn't answer or doesn't provide that solution, would you go to
someone?
You find someone else.
If I need a haircut, no one's available, or I gotta wait 4 hours, and I need a haircut before 6. I'm gonna go somewhere else. Just for that day, I need a haircut.
I mean, that's a really good example as well. When I was in Miami for the Vault conference, I wanted to get a haircut, and it was on a weekend. And there were certain places open, certain places that were not open. Then I asked, "Do you have a wait?" No. Yes, we have a wait. Click. You have a wait? Yes. You have a wait? Yes. You have a wait? No. You can come in right now. Perfect. You got my business.
Yeah.
And it happens. It's happened in real estate, and people don't think that it's happening, and it is happening in their own business.
Yeah, it happens all the time. How many times did you go out to dinner to the restaurant you want, and you get there and they're like, it's a 45-minute wait, and you're like, and then you call the second restaurant that you are okay with going, and they're like, it's a 10-minute wait. And you're like, all right, fine. I'll just settle and eat here because I don't want to wait 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I had an agent earlier this year, and you probably know which one I'm talking about, Sean, who we set up a light transfer, a seller ready to list their property, had a conversation, we connected them. Agent didn't follow through on his promise, fulfill that. And sure enough, a month later, that property's on the market, $1.1 million with another agent. You know, and
too many times.
Just like that, you know, the agent, the lead is looking for a solution, and we don't take it seriously. We don't dive into this conversation. We don't build that trust right away initially in that conversation. And sure enough, he found somebody else that could fulfill that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it happens more often than we think.
It sucks.
It does, but that's the reality of the business. You know?
It is the reality, which is why. And thank you for putting the recap together, Heather. This is awesome. Pain, doubt, cost, desire, money, support, trust. Wow. Pain, doubt, cost, desire, money, support, trust.
Simple yet powerful points in any conversation, whether sales.
Sean,
any last words?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Andres.
Any last words, Sean?
Man, I actually was just realizing like all the different, like, there's so many ways that you can extract each one of these and talk about each one of these all on its own. Pain, doubt, cost, desire, money, support, trust. Pain, you know, if there's no pain, there's no sale. Doubt, if they're not in the buyer's pocket, they're not moving forward with you. The buyer's pocket is simply, are they in between the belief that they know it's possible, and they know that they can't do it themselves? Otherwise, they're not moving forward. Desire, or cost. What is the cost of inaction? What is the cost of not choosing a solution? And is there a cost of not taking any action? Is that greater than the cost of actually taking action, of moving? And we use the example of renting. If someone is okay to default to renting, then well, the cost of an action isn't really all that great. So if they end up changing their mind later on in the future, it's not going to be a big surprise to us. Desire, we're asking 3 to 4 layers deeper than what they're giving us. Money, we're not interrogating, we're painting a picture. Support, who other than you has decision-making power? And then trust is built in doing the things that you said that you're going to do. So you do those things, you understand those parts of your prospect, and you'll never know why a deal went to someone else. There's no such thing as a missed opportunity. It just went to someone else.
That's exactly it.
All right.
Awesome.
I took most of the airtime. I'm sorry, guys. This is a great topic, though. This is such an awesome topic, and I'd love to even keep this recording as an intro video for our agents. I know we're still live, but this is a great topic. You guys have put on a great environment for me to communicate these values, these principles, and I just think you guys are awesome for doing that.
This is what it's all about. This is what it's all about, man. Like I said at the beginning, it's great talking to you. Continue to pour into the agents that are working with us. Anyone just visiting and watching the audience, because you always bring great nuggets. Then that a lot of times we just on the surface, and it's good to once in a while dive in a little bit deeper and really pay attention to those details, because we're missing opportunities that are in front of us, that are in our pipeline, and sometimes diving a little bit deeper allow us to take a step back, and look from the outside what we have in front of us, and be able to dive into that a little bit more. So we thank you for showing up here every time. So it's always a pleasure, and it's fun having this type of conversation.
Oh yeah, brother. Appreciate you guys for having me. Keep being awesome.
Thank you, Sean. Thanks so much for being here. We really do appreciate it. And this was an awesome training. I'll get you guys a recording so that you can have it and we can give it to the agents. And if you guys are listening and you want to jump on our Friday training at 1 o'clock Eastern, I have the website right here running across the bottom. It's meetcloudrealty.com. We will be there at 1 o'clock, and you can see Sean again, and he will do our Friday training.
All right.
Awesome. And stay tuned for next Tuesday. We're going to have Aaron Rose here as a guest as well. We want to talk to him about what different businesses, activities that he's exploring. So it's going to be a fun conversation. We had him yesterday at What's Working Wednesday, and we want to dive into more specific on his book launch that he's getting ready for, and several other things as well, his success with Cloud Realty and as an agent. So stay tuned for next Tuesday. Join us, and always a pleasure. Thank you for joining us today.